Welcome back to another episode of Life After Corporate, my friends. And if you're new to our show, welcome home. It's a very hot August day here in the Northeast. I'm in Long Island. My guest is in New Hampshire, and we're keeping the air conditioning going while we're having this conversation. So my guest today is Heidi Solomon-Orlick. Heidi was a client in the Launch Lab, I think 5 or 6 years ago. And at that time, she launched a program called Girls Who Sell. And we're going to dive into what Heidi's journey has been in the last 5 to 6 years. And if you know Heidi Solomon-Orlick, and you should, and you need to follow her on LinkedIn if you're not, Heidi has redefined success in her 60s by pursuing passion, purpose, and legacy. She is the founder of Girls Who Sell. She champions economic empowerment for young women from underserved communities through scholarships, mentorship, and career readiness training in B2B sales. Her award-winning book, Heels to Deals, uplifts the stories of diverse global sales professionals, while her children's book, which I just read, I Have a Voice, teaches kids to honor and use their inner voice for good. With 2 more children's books in the works, she continues crafting stories of empowerment for future generations. Heidi is widely recognized as one of the top 100 women in sales. She is a 4-time Stevie Award winner and a top 50 female leader in New Hampshire. She has left an indelible mark on the industries and communities that she serves. Her mission is clear, her spark is everlasting, and she inspires change and then to leave the world a better place than when she found it. Welcome back to Life After Corporate, Heidi Solomon-Orlick.
Thank you, Deb. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm so excited for this conversation because, I've always followed you since the early days when we worked together. And I'm always amazed. And the number one question that's always in my mind is, oh my God, how does she do it all?
That's why I'm so
And
tired.
so let's tell the story from the beginning. We met, I think I forgot how we met. Maybe we were introduced or we were in a community together. Do you remember?
Yeah, I attended a webinar that you did that I actually think I came across on LinkedIn initially. And I sat in, I was like, oh my gosh, I need to know this person. And you were talking about the training program and Launch Lab. And I was just in the early stages of really trying to figure out what my mission driven, heart centered business looked like. And I had a bunch of ideas, had no idea how to package it. And you were just sort of the gift that came into my life exactly at the right time. So
And you were fully employed. As I remember, you were
I
head of sales for a consultancy.
well, back then, yeah, I was VP of sales for a business process outsourcing company. I, it was a pivotal time in my life. Both of my parents had just passed away in 2019, and I had really begun to think a lot about legacy and impact. And like you said, like, what can I do to give back and leave the world a better place than how I found it? And I knew I wanted to play, at least a small part in solving for some pretty big problems. I just didn't know what it looked like. And when we first met, I had 2 business ideas, right? One was focused on this whole process of reinvention after 60, and creating a business around that, supporting women that were potentially being aged out of the market. And then I pitched Girls Who Sell, and you were like, we were both like, yeah, that's it, right? Like, that
Yeah.
is actually your life's mission. And while I still continue to be an active aging advocate and have a voice for women over 50, Girls Who Sell is where we landed, and the rest is history, I guess.
Yeah. Well, let's talk more about that journey. And, as And here we are 5 years later,
Yeah.
we are an aging workforce, and it is a real thing that women over 50 have fewer opportunities. I launched my business when I was 54, 55, and, there were fewer opportunities for me, and, it wasn't that I wasn't interested or talented, it was just that the younger men were actually getting favorable promotions in lieu of women our age. And so, but I remember that day. I remember that day in the launch lab when you pitched the idea of supporting women in later stages in their third chapter. And there was a lot of competition in the market at that time.
Yeah.
And when you pitch Girls Who Sell, it struck a chord in me because I started in sales, right, from a degree in education. And once you have sales skills, it's like you can do anything. It is
Yeah.
one of the fundamental things that they don't teach you in school that everyone needs to learn how to sell.
Yeah,
So
we
what
talk a lot
happened?
about that in our training program, right? That whether you decide to be a bag carrying sales person, sales is a life skill and it's something that you're going to use for the rest of your life. You're always selling. We're always selling, whether it's a budget or a business concept or trying to get funding or trying to convince your, 5-year-old to go to bed at night. It doesn't matter. It really is a fundamental skill that I think is incredibly important. So, yeah.
And so tell us about the early days of Girls Who Sell. What were some of the hurdles that you had to overcome in order to bring that to market? And I know there were several.
Yeah, it was kind of the wild, wild west, right? I had no business plan. I really didn't have any idea on what the business looked like, but I was very clear on the mission, which was to democratize professional sales and build the largest pipeline of diverse early stage female sales talent. And at the time, and even still today, there were a lot of really great organizations that were focused on working with women who were already in sales and upskilling them and career pathing them and I didn't want to play in that space. I actually felt that to solve for the bigger problem, which is the lack of diverse pipeline, that we needed to begin having these conversations earlier. And you and I spent a lot of time talking about what that looked like, but where we landed was working with high school and college age women from underrepresented communities, basically positioning sales as a viable career choice. Because as we all know, sales gets a bad rap. And I think the perception of what sales is and what it actually is completely different. So it's an
Mhm.
education process. And so that's where we kicked things off. And we created a training program, Girls Who Sell Academy. We launched our Explore Sales program, and we took it to market. The vision was, the economic model was that it would be 100% subsidized by corporate sponsorships, which
Mhm.
made sense at the time. And I wanted to offer the training program for free to our students. We can talk about how that's evolved over time. I know we'll get there, but that was the original concept of the business. And a big part of the program was mentorship and pairing these young women with women who were already in sales, right? So starting to make those connections. Because I always felt like representation mattered and that these
Mhm.
girls can't be what they can't see. So, it was really important for me to begin building those connections. And over time, it began to evolve to, all right, sales seems like it's a cool profession, but how do I even get a job in it? And so the career readiness, and we're actually launching just in the next couple of weeks another course called Get Hired, which is going to focus on helping young women get early stage jobs in professional sales. So that is the origin. It just, nobody really knew me outside of the BPO industry. So it was a lot of, who is this woman, right? So building my personal brand, but also nobody knew Girls Who Sell. And so starting to get some brand recognition for Girls Who Sell as well. And that takes time. It's not an overnight process. And it took time to build credibility, and just a lot of patience and a lot of persistence and a lot of consistency. And so, here we are, and we put hundreds of girls through the programs over the years, and I'm really proud of that. And so to see the, sort of the ripple effect of how that, translates into long-term impact in the profession, is something I'm really, really proud of and want to do more of. So,
Yeah. Are you
yeah.
tracking the girls who go through the program
Yeah.
and, following them through the process?
Um, Not in, I probably should do it in a more formal way because that's a brilliant idea, but I create such, like, our cohorts are small, right? Like, I'm
Mhm.
not, didn't start out as, sort of going direct to consumer and selling this training program, and hundreds and hundreds of people sign up and pay for it. And I don't really know who any of them are. This was, and still is, a very intimate, impactful program. So I got to know these girls, and I have followed them. I
Mm.
haven't done it in a formal way, and I'll tell you, the mentorship relationships that have formed over the years, a lot of our mentors still keep in touch with, and have built relationships, long-term relationships with the students that they mentored. So that's great. Um, we are making a pivot, like, listen, I think the mission is solid. Um, that hasn't changed, but 6 years later, with the rollback of D&I programs and a lot of
Mhm.
the funding around diversity initiatives being rolled back and defunded altogether, and a lot of competition for corporate sponsorship money right now. I have to rethink the market strategy. So we are going to pivot to a more, direct to consumer model, particularly for Get Hired.
Mhm.
But we won't lose the personal touch of the business, and we'll still offer mentorship and some of the things I think have really long-term impact.
Yeah. Yeah, your capacity for taking on, and you mentioned consistency
Mm-hmm.
and, just determination. All these traits that I see that you embody is pretty amazing. Plus, you have this incredible spidey sense of what's working, what's not working, when to pivot, how to pivot, and you don't waste a lot of time, like, mulling things over or, from the outside, I don't see you questioning your mission or questioning your worth. You just get right in there and you see it and you do it. Is that true? Is that what happens on the inside of Heidi's mind? Or were there moments
If
of
you can
that?
figure out what goes on the inside of my mind, my husband would pay a lot of money for that. Uh, no, yeah, I think as an entrepreneur, that's a skill that you need to have. You cannot, procrastinate. You have to move at the speed of change, and the world is moving really fast and evolving every day, and new technologies and new businesses being launched, and so, listen, I failed a lot along the way. I mean, there were things that just absolutely I tried and absolutely flopped, and that's okay. I never, I always looked at that as learning opportunity, and okay, that didn't work. So what are we going to try now? And I'm going to try this, and I'm going to try that, and then, then really leaned into the things that stuck, right,
Mhm.
and that was working. And I think as an entrepreneur, whether you're a, a brand new entrepreneur at 20 years old or 65 years old, you need to be nimble. and flexible and be able to adapt
Mhm.
to the changing world. And so, yeah, that's what
Yeah.
I do. And
And
yeah. And when I
but
saw now that the business model isn't working and it was taking a lot of my time and and energy, which is great, but um I need to shift from working in the business to working on the business.
mhm.
And that's a big pivotal shift. So, and I think a lot of entrepreneurs get stuck in that, right? Let's make the spreadsheets look really pretty and let's do all our own social media posts and and guess what? If you really want to exponentially grow your business, there comes a point in your business when you need to let that go and invest in support and focus on what your superpower is. And for me, it's branding and it's storytelling and it's mentoring young women. So that's where I'm putting my time and my money.
Yeah, and you recently, well, in the last year or 2, left your full-time job, right? So now you're full-time into your business,
Well, I
which
didn't
is
leave it.
well,
I was actually.
it left you.
I wish I had. Maybe it would have been better if I had chosen to leave it. But I was actually kind of let go under the guise of restructuring. But at the end of the day, at 63 years old, I was aged out of an industry despite my expertise and track record, of over 30 years. And
Mhm.
sometimes that's just the universe or God or spirit or whatever you want to call it. Sometimes you just need to tune in to that and realize perhaps it's time to make a change, right? Like this is the time that um, in your life to make a shift. And I would be lying if I told you that I didn't completely spin out.
Mhm.
And I went into kind of a depression. I had no idea who I was outside of my corporate persona. I had to completely redefine success. And yeah, so and I actually um, didn't didn't know what full time entrepreneurship would look like for
Mhm.
me, and then I was still toying with this dream of launching, children's books, right, which has always been something that I've wanted to do. I've been a storyteller since I was a young girl. Um, and it was just something that I wanted to do. I had no idea what any of that looked like.
Yeah, and
Um,
we'll dive into the
the
children's
book,
books
but
too. But before we move away from this point, you mentioned that, this identity shift,
yeah,
all the bottom gets pulled out and everything that was solid for you that you relied upon to hook your identity on and the support system and the reward system is suddenly not there anymore. So you have to recreate this. And you mentioned, God, spirit, whatever spiritual um, channel you turn into
yeah.
is what role did your spiritual life play in this identity shift of, you know, feeling angry and hurt and sad and mad and all the things about being let go from your job? But how did you rely on your spiritual core and getting your footing again and creating a new direction?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. For me, I think it came down to just trust, right? Like just trusting myself, trusting that I have that I'm being called to a higher purpose, and just believing that I had the capacity to be successful at doing that. But what was interesting, Deb, is that my definition of success has totally changed. So it's no longer about chasing money or title or security or, the things that perhaps come with a with corporate, right?
Mhm.
At least you'd like to think so in today's world. I don't know
Yeah.
that anything's
Who knows
very
now?
corporate.
Yeah.
Who knows these days? But at least, over my 40 years of having a corporate career in advertising, marketing, and professional sales, that was something that I could always rely on. And, I think that for me, success now is it's more chasing impact and legacy, and so the way that I measure my success is, you know, did did my life make a difference today? I wake up every morning thinking about how I can make a positive impact to at least one person's life today. Hopefully somebody's listening to this and they go, oh my gosh, that's me, or oh wow, what she said really resonated. And that ripple effects is immeasurable in terms of success. It'll probably continue on far beyond my lifetime. At least
Absolutely.
I like to think so. So for
Absolutely.
me, how I relied on my, spiritual guidance. I mean, I did seek out a lot of spiritual leaders. I came to you. I went on retreats, spiritual retreats, and I did a lot of spiritual coaching. And so, um, there's a couple of things when I think about the journey that I've been on, and maybe this will help some people who are going through the reinvention process themselves right now. The first thing that I had to do was just, I wouldn't say hit rock bottom, but I just had to lean into the grief, like you said, like the sadness. And because it's a loss
Mhm.
are laid off at a job or anything in your life major like that. It's an actual loss, and you have to go through the grieving process to get to the other side. So that was the first step for me, is being okay with not being okay, right? And
Mhm.
I'm someone that always had it together, right?
Mhm.
Perfectionist, I always had my shit together. I did not have my shit together, right? Like,
Mhm.
so I had to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. So that was like the first step. And then the second step is you begin to start this rebuilding process, and really trying to understand who this new persona is that was just born, right? It's like
Mhm.
giving birth, right? Like
Yeah.
giving birth to this new individual that, and so I didn't have any answers. So I did have to create a personal board of directors, and reach out to experts and get some additional support as I tried to figure that out. Right.
Mhm.
Um, and then to your point earlier, then it was just like, okay, just do this thing, right? Like you just have to, you just have to embrace this new person and figure out then what the next step in the journey is to be successful. And a lot of that for me was not only about trust, but it was also stepping out of my comfort zone, because I was this new person and I was doing things that I had never really done before, and just continue to push those boundaries as my new persona evolved. And then and then the fourth thing is just, you just have to do it. You just have to
Yeah.
do it.
Well, yeah, and you're a great doer. You're a great doer. I'm sure there's a generator somewhere in your human design. You're probably a manifesting generator. You just get so much done, and so much comes to you. Um, when you said trust, I had goosebumps all over my body, because that is the growth path of entrepreneurship. It's trusting in something that's bigger than you.
Yeah.
And overcoming scarcity of I'm not enough, or I don't have enough, or oh my God, I'm not making as much money. And those things are just temporary and meaningless in the long run, as long as you got a roof over your head and food on your table, and you're making an impact and you're feeling fulfilled. Um, and you have this incredible capacity. You have this spidey sense of knowing just what to do next. And it might not feel that way on the inside, but I see you on the outside. And I'm like, damn, that woman knows how to get press. She knows how to get PR. And this journey of entrepreneurship is a compilation of your entire background. So not only the sales, but the advertising, the marketing, the sales skills, all of the things of the last 35 years have gone into the CEO that you are now of your company. So before we end, I want to get into the whole publishing thing. The first book you
Yeah.
published was Heels to Deals, and tell us about that journey. And then super curious. And I read your children's book last night. I downloaded it on Kindle. I was just like, oh my God, this is so good, so sweet. We'll share that with our listeners too.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, actually, my first foray into publishing was because I was absolutely terrified. I knew I had a book in me somewhere, but I had again no idea how to go about it. And Bridget McGowan, who owns Press 49, it's what it's called now, reached out to me. Somehow she had discovered me on LinkedIn, and she reached out to me and asked if I would contribute a chapter to a book called Upward: Leadership Lessons for Women on the Rise. And that was in it just felt fortuitous at the time because I was just starting. I hadn't gotten laid off of my job, but I was just starting this whole process of reinvention. And to and I had just launched Girls Who Sell. So it was my baby step into publishing, and it was hugely successful. Bridget was awesome. She guided me through the whole process. The book won all kinds of awards. There's fabulous women in the throughout the book, and I and so that was sort of my first step into publishing. I'm like, man, I can do this. I got this.
Yeah.
But then, as I was out, recruiting students for Girls Who Sell, again, it kind of comes back to this whole conversation of representation. And here, my whole brand was about building diversity in sales, and yet there's such a lack of diversity in sales that, and me as a 60 plus year old white woman, to be honest, I mean, I
Hmm.
had the credibility and I had the expertise, and I was sort of Grandma Heidi, right? That they could, that they respected. But I wanted them to really be able to see and relate to other women who maybe had gone through and down the same path that they were just about to embark on. And so the idea, for Heels to Deals, how women are dominating in business to business sales, was born out of that. And
Hmm.
I reached out to Bridget, and I just said, hey, what do you think about us putting together a book, which is a compilation of diverse women from all over the world, sharing their stories, sharing their guidance, and um, and and a book that any woman could at any age could pick up and say, oh,
Hmm.
I see myself, that's me, right? Like i I was a single mom in high school. I did, I do have a desire to break away from generational poverty. I was a, you know in, maybe an abusive relationship, and I was able to, through sales, really find my path, and achieve economic independence. And the stories are just absolutely phenomenal, right? Like they're so powerful, which by the way, Deb, was a complete um, unplanned outcome of the book of that we began to create this community
Mhm.
amongst women. And, originally it was just, well, just share your stories, but how impactful these stories are unbelievable. I just heard a quote, and I'm going to read it, that we write the
Yeah.
book that we wish we had growing up, or we wish we had when we started in business, or whatever. And I feel
Yeah.
like that's
It's
what that
true.
book was for me.
Yeah.
Was wow, I wish I had this 35 years ago when I had started in sales, and I could have this whole community of women that I could that I can learn from. And
Yeah.
Bridget was like,
And in true Heidi fashion, I
let's do
mean,
it.
it was a splash. I mean, you did a road show, you went to multiple cities, you
Yeah.
had book signings. I mean,
Yeah, it was awesome.
that's a whole nother episode for another day, which
Yeah.
is how to write and launch a book that gets such wonderful traction like Heels to Deals did.
And it's won an
And
award. It's won award. So I'm really proud of that. It won a Silver Stevie, a Book of the Year last year. And we all still have a LinkedIn chat, all of us, still talk and support each other and amplify each other. And so, I mean, I think it just speaks to where I'm at in my life, that, at some point it just is not about me anymore. It's about all of us. And so whatever I could do to use my voice and my platform to amplify other women, I'm gonna do it. So it was an investment on my part, but absolutely worthwhile investment, for sure, for
you
me
have
and
to
for the
invest,
women that
right?
participated.
Yeah, I mean, books are an investment. These days, most people hybrid publish because it is the right way to go, and the
Yeah,
marketing in the book. I mean, it is an investment. It elevates your brand, elevates your platform, and creates that ripple effect of change throughout the world. So
yeah,
before we go, I want to
yeah.
know which came first, Heidi the grandma or Heidi the children's book author, and how did you get into publishing your new book?
Maybe I've always been both of
I have
those
a vo-
things.
I have a voice.
Yeah. So, I Have a Voice was published before I became a grandma. Well, when they got pregnant, I was working on it.
Hmm.
And interestingly enough, I Have a Voice was, I believe it was channeled. I know that sounds like woo woo, but I literally dreamed about it. So I had been thinking about writing a children's book for, I don't know, 30 years or so, long time. And I I woke up that morning and it just manifested itself. And I Have a Voice just kept coming. I just kept hearing it. And it was like, I have a voice. I have a voice. And I grew up maybe similarly to you. My
Hmm.
generation, our generation, girls were meant to be seen and not heard, right?
That's right.
Children in general were meant to be seen and not heard, but especially girls. And we were supposed to be sugar and spice and everything nice, and until we weren't, which was most of the time for me. I was always pushing boundaries and just asking why, and probably why I'm a good salesperson. That fundamentally is like being curious, and that was like my innate personality. I wasn't an
Mm.
easy kid to raise, but anyway, fast forward to the book. I just and then what is happening in the world, I just with you know D&I programs and just diversity in general just being erased, right? Like, and
Mhm.
I just was like mad. I was just crazy. I was like, I have got to do something to solve for this. And so it was just like, I have a voice, and it was all about like, you need to give these young um, these young children a voice and begin to impact in a positive way the next generation. And I've always felt like I wanted to get younger, even with Girls Who Sell, start having conversations around, sales and entrepreneurship as early as 5, right? Like, so
Mhm.
I did launch a kids club, and we are doing some of that work now, and that's part of the Girls Who Sell reinvention. But um, I wrote the book in like 10 minutes. I just got up and I was like, I have a voice. A book of listening, and listening is such an important skill.
Mhm.
And the intent of the book is it's geared towards kids ages 4 to 9 ish,
Mhm.
and it teaches children how to identify, listen to, and honor their inner voice,
Mhm.
and empowers them to utilize and give a voice, use their voice for good in the world, and to give a voice
Mhm.
to others who may not have one.
Yeah.
And it just felt big. It just felt important. Like, this is a book that again, that needs to be out in the world. And if all of these programs are going to be erased, then I am going to play my part in being sure that this book gets in the hands of as many children, as many parents, as many educators as possible, because diversity, equity, and inclusion is important.
Mhm.
And um, this is a message that is that needs to be out in the world. It's going to change
Needs
the
to be
world,
heard.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
and it's beautifully illustrated. The illustrations are absolutely gorgeous,
yeah.
and, so congratulations on that.
Yeah, I
And
hybrid published that, just so you
Mhm.
know. So I
Mhm.
did, because again, I have to lean into what my superpower is, and I'm a storyteller, right? And I'm a creative, and I'm visual. So they brought an illustrator to the table, but I had significant input in the final product of the book.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of hidden things. There's a lot of I'll share it with you later, but there's a lot of secret things in that book that are very meaningful to me. And but I didn't want to focus on getting ISBN numbers and
Mhm.
copyrights, and being sure the book was formatted properly. Just let me write stories, right? That
Mhm.
that I want to have in the world. And now I have two more. Just quickly, the next one is Just a Dot, question mark. I think not. A book of connection. And I created this character called Dottie, whose life mission is to connect the world. So it's all about building bridges and tearing down walls. And you will find it on the banned book list. I'm 100% positive that, because it was really pushing boundaries in terms of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And
Mhm.
then the third book that I is now in the works is called More Than Pretty, um, a book of inner beauty, and that is actually really geared towards young girls to teach them that it's really what's inside that truly matters. And as a young girl who was all about being pretty, and
Mm.
I don't know. That's just something that I felt a need to tackle, right? Like, to teach girls that
Heidi,
it's not about that. So
I love you.
I
I just
love you
love you.
too.
And you are so consistent. And what I hope listeners take away from this interview today is that how this mission, this vision of impact, this legacy, the seed of legacy that was planted inside of you, that started with Girls Who Sell and has taken many other branches. On the outside, people might say, wow, you're just like all over the place.
Yeah.
Well, you're not all over the
Mm-mm.
place. This is a very well thought out, concerted effort to really make a change in society. And, and we're in a season right now where, women have lost a lot of ground.
Yeah.
There's no denying that.
No question.
And So these are the anchors that we'll lean on as guiding lights and guideposts to say, we're in this together. There is a way. And here's how to feel about yourself. Here's
Yeah.
about how to conceptualize the outside world. And by the way, here are some skills and some stories of empowerment of other women who have gone before you, who can
Yeah.
raise you up, whether metaphorically, and hold your hand and lift you up. So, Heidi, deep
Thank you.
respect for the work that you are doing in the world. I'm so grateful to have you in my life. Thank you so much for sharing your story and your great work with Life After Corporate listeners. Everyone, go buy Heels to Deals. Go buy I Have a Voice. Follow Heidi on Amazon so that you're alerted to all the books that she publishes. And by all means, follow this woman on LinkedIn. She
Yes.
is just a powerhouse of inspiration for entrepreneurs everywhere. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
That's it for now, my friends. If you loved this episode, please take a moment right now, leave us a 5-star rating and a review if you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts. We depend on listeners like you to give us some support and let us know so that others like you can find our show. And we'll be back next week with more inspiring stories of women entrepreneurs and this spiritual journey of entrepreneurship. Thank you so much.